I had a dream last night. I was in a field and Dave was there. It was just the two of us. We were just standing there, and it was really sad. But it was like we had just had a fight or something because we weren't saying anything. And then I don't know why, he just turned and went off. I just looked after him. I just stood there, and well, that's when I woke up. I haven't been able to go back to sleep since that dream. Huh? Silly, I know. Just that little dream. It's not the dream that bothered me, it's just bringing back so many memories. I met Dave at the park. I've always liked parks, ever since I was a kid. It's always nice, and there are lots of trees, and, oh, I mean, you're still alone, but, you know, sometimes being alone anywhere else is better than being alone where you are. I remember the day very clearly. I was walking along the top of Art Hill. I'd taken a moment to stop and look out over the basin. I always like to stop and look out because you can always see the boats. And I remember I was thinking about a 4th of July I'd spent there one time. You know, the boat races that they show? Well, anyway, I was just standing there, and this guy started to come up, and he started to tell me how the big statue, well, you know, St. Louis, had come to be there. And, well, I started looking around because I didn't think he was talking to me. And I was the only one there. And I started to think, well, what the hell is this? I mean, I don't know this guy. Well, but I didn't want to be rude and just walk away, so, well, I stood there listening. Actually, I was trying to keep from laughing. And then I became interested in what he was saying. He actually knew a whole lot about the statue. Well, we were just talking. We seemed to get along quite well right from the start. He told me that his name was David Abrams. He was studying journalism, and his ambition was to be a science fiction writer. We ended up spending the rest of the day together, walking around and talking. I found out that he was a journalism student at the same university where I was taking a couple of classes. Oh, I was still working as a secretary and everything then, but what they did is let me attend my classes in the mornings and then come in late. It was really great because, well, when my classes were over, I would hurry over to the library and meet Dave. He would always be in front of the library, studying or writing. He once told me that he loved libraries, but that he found what did he say, the regimented silence and order of things too imposing. So he always did his work outside. Oh, we'd sit there and we'd talk, or sometimes we'd take a walk around the campus. Oh, and sometimes I wouldn't even go to my class at all. We'd just while away the time talking. He'd tell me about his favorite writers like Ray Bradbury or Tolkien or Harlan Ellison. Oh, and about all the stories he was writing or that he was going to write. Oh, and of course I would always wind up spending more time than I had. Oh, but I didn't care. The living together was my idea. The way that it happened was one Saturday afternoon, he'd called me to go to the art museum, and he asked if I wouldn't mind driving, and I said sure. Well, he gave me the directions to his place, and when I got there, I couldn't believe it. He was living in such a terrible neighborhood. There were bars on the windows. You could see drunk people out in the street. It was so unsafe. The only thing I could think about was the fact that he could probably get knifed in the middle of the night. When I got there, I asked him if he was living there to do research on life in the Warsaw Ghetto. Well, of course, he just laughed. He thought I was joking. When we got to the park, I told him I thought he was crazy to live in conditions like that. He said it was the only thing that he could afford and, well, go to school at the same time. So I told him if things are that bad, that he could come and stay with me. Well, he thought about it a minute. then he turned back and said, "Okay." That was the beginning of our arrangement. And of course, I was not without my own motives. And that was understood too. It really makes me happy to think about that time in my life. It wasn't that we did anything really fancy together. It was all the little fun things that we did. Like sneaking wine up on top of the library building at lunch. He was such a clown. But I think I loved Dave the most when he was writing. He would get so totally absorbed in what he was doing, he would forget about everything else, even me. I could be in the same room doing anything, well, almost anything I wanted, and his eyes would never look up from what he was writing. He liked to act like he was so studious and disciplined when he worked it. I couldn't resist the urge to pester him. Oh, he'd get so annoyed with me. I remember one of the classes I was taking then was a film class, and one of the things we had to do was to make our own movie, and I decided to make mine on Dave. Oh, I drove him crazy. I'd sneak up on him from around the corners and I'd follow him down the street. Oh, he hated it. Oh, it was great. I had so much fun doing that. I mean, well, I know it was just a home movie, but, well, I don't know. I liked it. Oh, and naturally, Dave had to get his hand in and turn the camera on me. But enough about that. I really loved those times. I guess what I mean is that I couldn't believe I'd found someone who was so interesting. He was so alive. His mind was literally bursting with creative and really important things. He was very serious about life. I wish he'd been serious about me. One day, I came home from work and Dave was waiting for me on the front porch. I waved to him, and he just sat there looking at me, silent. And I thought something was up. But I sat down, and we were just playing. And then, without saying a word, he reached back behind him and pulled something out. It was his book. He'd finished it. Oh, he was so happy and proud. I was really proud of him, too. Oh, but I couldn't help feeling a little sad, because I knew what was coming. He told me he was heading for New York. And that's where writers go if they want to get published. And I'm afraid I made a bit of a scene. But I don't think that's so hard to understand. David already explained that he had to go, that there wasn't any place for writers in St. Louis. And I knew he was right. He did have to go if he was ever going to do what he wanted to do. I wanted him to succeed. And besides that, I'd always felt that we were really too different for anything permanent or lasting. I mean, he was the kind of person whose life was filled with ambitions and hope and drive. In my life, I just want to live it. Jesus, listen to me go on. God, I've got to knock this stuff off. I'm beginning to sound like... God, I mean, it's not like my life's so bad. I know my life hasn't changed all that much. But then, how much does anybody's life ever really change? I still have my job. Oh, I know there are lots better jobs around. That's still more than a lot of people can say. And I've made some good friends there. But now, whenever I'm in a bookstore, I'm always sure to browse through the science fiction section. Or look through the magazines at the front of the store for Dave's name. But it's never there. Maybe he gave it up. I don't know. I'd be disappointed if he did. And I still like to get out by myself and go to the park. But it gets very lonely sometimes. Especially when it's a pretty day.